Hey guys, this is DP0427.
Hey, this is Hate Mail.
This is Kage.
And we are WROL Broadcast, here to bring you the first episode of the Gorilla KHODDcast. Unfortunately, Ogre and Doom couldn't make it today, and since the holidays are a busy time, we don't really fault them for that. But anyways, the show must go on. So, the idea behind this show is that it's going to be our one live show at the end of each month to sort of wrap things up. We basically go over what's been going on in-game, in the community, and other interesting DCL or DC-related content. And of course, we'll have a brief Q&A session at the end where pretty much anything goes. So if you guys want to join, and feel free to ask us any questions during the show live here on Discord, feel free to just write it in chat. Otherwise, for future episodes, you can submit questions through YouTube, Reddit, other forms of social media like Twitter that we're on. And if you're a patron, obviously, patrons have priority answers for their questions when we go live. So, without further ado, let's get into the topics. So the first topic for this show is December characters. What did you guys think of December characters? So, hey, why don't you go first?
I actually like both characters more than I expected. I thought Worm was going to be pretty bad. And granted, he I nicknamed him the poor man's Wonder Girl, but he does bring a little bit more to the table than I originally thought. But he's one of those characters that almost needs to be Legendary 5 before he's worth using. I mean, you could get by with less, but you really want his entire kit for him to be effective. And his biggest thing is that he purges, which I know we have a lot of purgers. But he also gives the shields, which helps a plethora of characters. And the biggest thing, though, is that his constant attacks, especially when you're facing him, which is really annoying, is that he constantly silences. And while silence isn't the best skill, especially if you're facing like an Atrocitus team, against certain teams and characters use other abilities, that does make him useful. And he's a fun character. So he's a little better than expected. His damage is pitifully low. But when he crits on his basic attack, if he's casting it in between like every turn, when you're doing 4,000 damage, it actually adds up a little better. So I wish they would have given him just a hair more damage, so he would have been a viable alternative to some of the stronger mystics that we have. But overall, he's not a bad character. Cool. Black Manta, on the other hand, I do find him to be a very good character. He's probably one of the best, if not the best bleeder that is out now. Mm-hmm. The heal immunity is super useful, and you can just stack up the bleeds like crazy. My only complaint for him is I actually wish he was slower, because he goes before the characters that you have to deal with Harley Quinn, Majester, and every now and again she'll double crit and kill him.
Cool. All right. Well, before we get
or get him so low that he dies, from a whip or whatever.
Cool. Well, before we get into the rework characters, Kage, what do you think about the two new characters?
I don't actually have Orm geared. I have messed with him some. But I don't have anything to really contribute to that. But having faced him in Siege, I can tell you that I was actually scared of facing him in Siege, because a lot of, like Hate said, a lot of characters, more than you think, rely on their second and third abilities. And so silence would actually knock you out of the game. So he was actually a priority target for me to kill in Siege. In Wraith, I think that's going to be a different story. A lot of people are going to be using the meta characters, and the meta characters have strong basics. But if you're not in high PvP and you're just casually playing for fun, Orm's going to be a fun character. He's actually going to be on the map for me to gear. I don't know when I'll have him geared up fully, but he's on the radar. He's on the radar for me. Black Manta, and just like Hate said, really good bleeder. And yeah, I remember in Siege, he'd go before Steppenwolf, before I could get the hit chance ups on him. So then I wouldn't be able to cast the boom tube in time for him to attack, and then he'll miss, and then it would just mess my whole strategy up. So, but overall, he's a really fun character. I've been using him, and he's good. He's good. I don't think he's a must-have, but he's really fun.
Cool. So I really wish Ogre was here to talk about Black Manta, because he would probably be the expert to really shed light on it. But if you guys haven't already, go check out his Reddit post. I think he did an insight and discussion on him already. So if you want more in-depth analysis. on him. Definitely check that out. But like Kage,
I think Ogre is actually going to do a series on our YouTube channel that he goes into him a little deeper. He just hasn't had time yet because he got stuck working 7 days a week through the holidays.
Yeah,
so it's his holiday gift to himself. And one other thing I wanted to mention real quick too was that the I know some of you complained about some of the content we've been putting out because it's been very, very short and just one of us typically. That is mainly due to the holidays. We probably need to get back on a more regular release schedule. With the news thing that we set up, the goal wasn't to have content coming out on specific dates and times, but when new characters drop, new things appear, we want to do a little bit deeper coverage. I've just been pumping out something quick that hasn't been high quality just so we had something out. But going forward, we should all be able to have a couple of us get together and put together some content that you're more used to seeing. So hopefully we'll have that with the new characters starting next week.
Right. So the idea behind it is mainly like flash news. Like I did a flash thing about financial news, and we just put out stuff whenever we think it's relevant, and within a day or two, because obviously it's not easy to record something and edit it and have it out in audio and video form within like the day it breaks, right? So just kind of bear with us there too. But like Hate said, the holidays are a busy time. But back to the two new characters. Like Kage, I haven't geared out really Orm. I'm in the process of gearing him out. I'm at like year 6 or 7. I'm just slow gearing him. And I think that I had him pegged as sort of like a blue Castaway Green Arrow type of character, or even Red Robin style of character, where he gets a lot of free out of turn attacks. And the fact that his free out of turn attacks gets paired with silence, he kind of has this interesting play with characters like Clayface and Princess of the Themyscira, and so on and so forth. The idea behind him, he's just a nuisance, like sort of a pest that he'll shut you down, but he's not really like doing a ton of damage to you, but he's, sort of cutting you slowly until you die. But we'll see, maybe he'll have a place somewhere, but I think he needs to really have a build around for him to be really good. And I don't really have any insights on Black Manta yet, as I'm also starting in the process of gearing him, and I'm further behind on him than I am on Orm. So, but with that, what do you guys think about the reworks, Aquaman and Mera? Let's talk about Aquaman first, I guess. Kage, what do you think?
He seems to be pretty controversial of a rework because they took out the bleeds on his basic, and a lot of people really liked that on his kit, just so he could self-enable himself. I can see that argument. If they would have taken out the bleeds on the basic, it can be frustrating to not have bleeds for 4 turns. So I wish they would have lowered the cooldown at least on his bleed attack. But I think Aquaman's a fun character. I've always wanted to have him geared out, and now I do have him geared. The debuff immunity on his leadership procs more often than you think, and it's useful against first turn bleeders like Manta, or first turn stunners like Hal Jordan or Donna Troy. If you run into them in PvP and your debuff immunity happens to have procced, you're in a good spot. But overall, I like him. Mera, the changes they made to her made her a better character, but it didn't make her more viable, just because of certain characters out there who can really mess you up because of her new passive and being able to 100% of the time proc those mens on AoE attacks.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that a little bit more later. So hey, what do you think about Aquaman and Mera?
I'm actually in the camp of I'm very happy they took the bleeds out of his basic, because you almost always open with his 3, which is his stun and bleed, and he plays his bleeds. So then on the next turn, assuming you're not casting his crit immunity, you're going to cast and you're guaranteed the mens, and now his kit's fully enabled. So that part of it, I think, is better. I can see the argument especially if you're running people that call assist and you want him to cast bleeds, but I'd rather get the mens to enable the rest of his kit. And then if you're running with one other bleeder like a Black Manta, in Siege I ran all these characters so much, so I played them endlessly, and I played against them endlessly. So I think overall it's better when you face him, when you use him in play. It feels better. He feels more fluid. And that debuff immunity, I wish there was a way to make it 100%, because if he could always have the debuff immunity to start for a turn, he would be a top shelf character. Because when you face against that team and that is procced, it's a pain in the butt to deal with, and you forget about it. And you would almost have to have somebody be able to remove those buffs right out of the gate to deal with it. And even the stronger debuff characters that are out there still have to deal with it on turn 1 before they can start, slaughtering you. So I feel like it's a very good ability, and when it procs, it's crazy strong. And I don't see a reason why it should only be at 50% personally. I don't think he'd be overpowered at all with it, but he would be an extremely viable character. Mera, I like everything they did to her kit. Like Kage said, the biggest problem is that her men's proc, and if you're facing Wonder Girl, who's on 95% of teams, your team just got butchered. It was the one siege match that I about lost my mind during. When I realized I had no shot at getting World Finest, I went into a team. I saw 4 Mystics, and I assumed it was a 4 Mystic team with Aquaman and the 3 other blue characters that we were seeing before Black Manta started entering the siege. And I clicked the button, play, and when the match loaded, I realized, to my dismay, that I accidentally attacked the team with Wonder Girl, and all it took was that one AoE and Mera and popped all the men's, and everybody died. So there's nothing you can do about it. So
yeah,
I played the match as good as I could, but there's just no way.
So, I guess on the topic of Mera, I personally think that Mera is a workhorse, and she has always been really, really good at what she does before, and I think her rework has really helped her. But the fact that we're still being plagued with Wonder Girl running amok in all facets of PvP, she really can't shine without someone to take care of Wonder Girl before she can start get the ball rolling, and kind of defeats the purpose if you have to kill one character and then Mera basically has to get going when there's only 3 other characters left to deal with right at that point. So it's the same story for a lot of characters in the game that they're rolling out with and that are currently out there right now. But that being said, I really like the change to her overall kit in terms of the abilities that more or less stayed the same, but if you guys noticed, they reduced the cooldowns on a few of them. So I think on her second and her third ability, the cooldowns have been reduced, and that is pretty huge. The fact that you can almost go through 2 cycles or every other turn of having her heal immunity on her third, which is a huge, heavy damage move. So I really like that. And the fact that you can basically put damage immunity more or less every other turn already at this point. So I really like that change to her kit. For Aquaman, I like Hate. I pretty much think that Hate hit all the points on the head when he went over his analysis of Aquaman. And I think that basically taking the bleeds out of his basics, while they were good before, it now gives you a guaranteed way to get men's. So it didn't really make sense to me that half his kit was enabled through men's, half his kit was enabled through bleeds, and part of it was both. But you didn't have a guaranteed way of getting men's, but you did for bleeds. So now it just kind of rounds things out. That just makes more sense to me. Okay, but otherwise, what do you guys think of, how did the Siege go for you guys, and what did you think about the changes to Siege? Let's start with Hate.
I really liked, they did a lot of great things with Siege. The Revenge was done, I feel like it was almost perfect, because it still benefited you to do Revenge, but there was a lot of risk-reward analysis that had to be done with that. And you had to decide, is it worth spending the 2 to try to get all 4 points? I don't know. I think the Revenge was right where it needed to be. It's beneficial, and there may be a little bit of RNG where somebody could get better Revenge log than you, but overall it didn't seem to play into making the difference of if your team was going to beat Siege, if you were going to be a top player in Siege or not. The only thing I really didn't like about it was, I know initially the rewards people weren't happy about, and I think if you mapped it all out, it wasn't quite worth buying the gems every day unless you got in the top 10. So I think if they relook at that, maybe add something if they want to keep the legendary essence kind of where it's at, so that there isn't just this over rush of legendary essence, they could possibly change it to XP meta agents or rings or some combination of the three to make it, financially worth buying every day if you can get high enough. So that part of it, there's a lot of controversy about that. And then also the gate limit, the 1,000 gate limit that was low. So many people were upset that you had to get to 1,000 trophies. So you had to buy to get to the 1,000 trophies. So there was a lot of discrepancy on that. And then a lot of people were upset because they couldn't beat their boards. Some of that I think has merit, but then some of that is, there needs to be incentive to gear your characters, which everything else more or less incentivizes you not to gear your characters. So I think they might have went the right direction in pushing people to gear their characters. They want to be able to clear their boards. Well, you got to gear your characters to clear your boards, or just don't clear your board. So it's, there's a little bit of controversy on that. I can't speak to it because I don't have low enough characters. I know people like M4 that had run dual accounts might be able to talk a little better on that. And then the only other thing I really didn't like was that the bonus characters, with the exception of Black Manta, were all Mystic. And the predominantly most frustrating team right now is physical evasion heavy team that the bonus characters can't deal with. So that part was a pain. What I'd like to see in the future is some kind of restricted character list. But instead of doing a restricted character list, because it would be too much like the showdowns, which I don't think they would do, make it too much similar to that, would be to do maybe a black character, just black. I think Kage suggested this before, where you have 5 bonus tunes or 6 bonus tunes or whatever. Maybe expand that a little more to deal with the meta, because the first Siege we had Red Robin, and I think Higher Gun Deadshot was too. You had 2 characters that dealt with Wonder Girl, so it really wasn't an issue as bonus characters. But if they don't want to go that route, always look at the meta and then give you characters to deal with that meta, is take the most popular characters, your Wonder Girl, Power Girl, Harlequin, Majester, and make it -2 points if you use those. And they could do that in cycles of the most popular characters at the time, so that when you go into Siege, it's a whole new meta almost.
So you have a white list and a black list.
Yeah, that would be fun. I mean, I think that would shake it up so you see new teams, and that was the appeal to the first Siege, is that we really saw teams that weren't what you saw every day in Wraith. So that I think that would be fun. Give it a little bit of jazz, because even if the meta shifts, there's always going to be some kind of meta that's predominant in Wraith. And then if Siege is kind of that, hey, something's going to be a little different, it'll shake up the thinking and make it a little more strategic and fun.
Right.
But overall, I enjoyed Siege. I love Siege. I hope it comes back again. We don't have to wait as long as we did this time. But
cool.
So sad to see it wasn't next month. I like the 3-week schedule too, because it's so high pressure playing Siege, especially if you're playing for the top, that you kind of want a week off in between.
And I'm actually happy that they didn't make it the 4th week, so that it would roll into Christmas, right? So that it just
that was
right
nice too.
Before, it was good timing. So, all right, Kage, how did Siege go for you?
Took top 100. It was a lot harder for me to maintain top 100 this time because I couldn't sandbag, really, and I like that. I didn't have to put out purposely losing teams just to win a couple more trophies. I had to make some decisions on who to gear, and each match I had to think through, and I got punished for it, obviously. I ranked pretty low in the top 100, but it's all right. I had fun. I like the changes they made, and I'm comfortable with it coming out like every other month or every couple of months. Every month, I think Field would feel it be too much. So every other month would be fine. Just to get a break from that Wraith grind. The Brainiac Wraith right now is, I don't know. I just do not like grinding Wraith. It just takes a long time, but it's good to mix in Siege every now and then just for the paywall character. And really not much what to say on that end, but Siege was a lot more fun. I think the Siege would benefit with more bonus characters. That way, you're not seeing more meta teams out there. Because I think part of the problem too was that not everyone had a Mera geared or Aquaman geared, and so they opted to use Atrocitus Wonder Girl, Batgirl Wonder Girl just for the guaranteed win because they wanted to win so bad. So yeah.
So for me, when it comes to Siege, well, I placed in the top 300-ish or something like that, or 400-ish, I can't remember. I basically really didn't go very hard on Siege at all. I didn't buy any of the refreshes, and I just basically played teams that were good, and from time to time I'd slot in Mera and Aquaman if I could afford to without having to lose too many points, and if it would help benefit it. But the thing that I did like the most about Siege was they made revenging less beneficial because they made it more less cost effective by increasing the cost to 2 rather than 1. But personally, I thought that they could have done more to, if they want to keep revenge as an aspect of it, of the Siege, they could have done more to sort of make it less appealing. It still had an appeal if you were able to run, say, 2 or more bonus characters at any one time, because that would still net you more points per energy than, say, a regular battle with no bonus characters, right? So there is a sort of...
You also have to keep in mind the loss, the -3 that you get from the loss too.
That's true. So, but
that made it worse than I realized once I started worrying. It's because the top 2 people with Sheriff Lobo and Lucas, and I ended up at number 3, I believe. Originally, I started clearing my board, or it wasn't clearing my board and was refreshing and just using the easiest bonus tombs I could so I could revenge more. And I kept falling behind and couldn't figure out why. And it's because you can't always use more than 2 bonus tunes to revenge, especially when they're the harder teams. So I think it ended up being about as good as you could have hoped for without them just eliminating revenge altogether. And that's the other thing I was hoping that they would do, is make the board clear worth more than 5 points, because it really didn't make sense. If you saw a Batgirl team with Wonder Girl and Harley Quinn Manchester, there was no incentive to beating that team, because you run the risk of losing a character too high, and you couldn't use any bonus characters in that match at all. So you had to just refresh your board, and it was more cost effective to do it that way. I'd rather the board clear be worth more so that I would be willing to take the risk of taking on that Batgirl team.
That's right. So I was about to say the same thing. So they need to put more incentives in place for to make you want to do the main part of the battling, right? Without having to go through loopholes to find, backdoor ways to getting more points in a sort of semi cost effective way. But personally, otherwise, it was a good event. It was timed well in terms of 3 weeks instead of 4. The debate, the controversy behind the legendary essence reward, I hate, was saying they could have mitigated that with other stuff. They could have added in more items, more gear, things like that to give away, things that we need, resources that we need, or just simply take the previous format, how it rewarded for a 4-week event, scale it back for 3 weeks. But that being said, we might have been super spoiled with the first event because we got a ton of legendary essence the first time around. And, maybe they thought, okay, maybe this was a bit too much. We need to scale it back. It's really tough to do that, especially from a business and marketing point of view, because it's like giving a kid a very shiny new toy and then actually, this is not yours. I'm going to take it away. I'm going to give you this rusty old one instead. So, at
least you're getting a toy.
Yeah, at least you're getting a toy, right? But you have to look at the silver lining, right? The silver lining is at least you're getting this stuff that you didn't have before. So that being said, I'm still happy that, they rewarded things the way they did. They could have done it better maybe, but, this is their second time around. Maybe the third time will be, the masterpiece, the coup de grace, the one thing that brings it all together with the right timing, with the right prizes, the right siege sort of elements, revenging, bonus lists, and so on and so forth. So hopefully by the next time it comes around, it'll be nicely tuned for us. Alrighty. So I guess let's move on from there. At the end of December, well, now a couple of days ago, about a week ago from now, we already had the silhouettes and the previews for January's character, being Wally West Flash and Arsenal, also known as Red Arrow or Speedy. So, and also we know that the reworks are going to be Assault Warsuit Lex Luthor and Castaway Green Arrow, which are already live in the game at the moment. So a lot of people have been testing them out. So before we get into the new characters, I guess we'll start off with the characters we know already with the reworks. And I'll let Hate talk about the reworks since I think he has a lot to say.
Yeah, I'll start with the shorter one, which is Castaway Green Arrow, who was already a solid character, but now I have to say he's significant. I would say significantly, but fairly better. And he didn't really need the rework, but he's definitely a good rework, and he's a super strong character. I've been playing with him actually a little bit more, giving Assault Warsuit Lex a little bit of a rest while I mess with Castaway. And the extra purging, the guaranteed invisibility off his initial attacks, just the little things that they added to him makes him super solid, and he really fits well into this meta. You can run him with lots of different teams. You can get that turn meter down early and then start purging buffs. And he does exactly what he did before. He just does it slightly better than he did. So not a whole lot to say about him, except a lot of people already had him geared. If you hadn't before, he's definitely worth it, and he has a place in this meta, and it does a lot of things well. And the buff purging, you can do a ton of it. I don't like facing him, and I feared facing him in Siege when he was reworked and showed up right towards the end there. Yep. Especially with the AI getting double shots nonstop. Kind of brought back some dark memories of an old meta.
PTSD setting in.
Yeah, exactly. The character I'm most impressed with, though, and rework-wise, is Assault Warsuit Lex. I absolutely love him, and I've been playing with him. I played with him so much after his rework. The reason I like him so much is that, and granted, he is slow, and that's his downfall, and it's tough to work. If you don't have him on a Brainiac team because he's so slow, sometimes I know a few of my alliance mates, they just didn't see what I was seeing in him. And I think part of that has to do with they may not have been running them with Brainiac teams, because you really need that extra 15% turn meter to get a turn early. But he can take some hits. I mean, Power Girl cannot just nuke him down like she does every other physical. So he can definitely survive quite a few hits. He can and stay above 50% life, because the key is once he falls below 50% life, he gets to be pretty much useless. But if you keep him over 50% life, his basic does so much damage. So I finally found that really annoying, and if you've seen the YouTube video I posted, the Batgirl, Harley Quinn, Donna Troy, Wonder Girl team that is almost impossible to 3-star prior to Assault Warsuit Lex showing up. Now you can run DOJ, strip all the evasions, run World's Greatest Detective or Wonder Girl to strip the remaining crit immunity buff that Batgirl procs when DOJ inevitably misses. And then on your next turn, Assault Warsuit Lex can one-shot Wonder Girl. And that's the key. If you can get Assault Warsuit Lex to attack her without a crit immunity, almost every Mystic dies. The only one that kind of can survive sometimes is Attribution if he's overhealed. Yep. Everyone else is one-shotted. Yeah. His buff removal is really good. His damage immunity is great, and we were wrong. It's still 2 turns. I blame Doombox. He thought it was 1 turn. Instead, I should have done some research, but I'll blame him. And then his AoE, granted it's on 4 turns, it takes forever, and you rarely get to use it, but when you do get to use it, it does a ton of damage.
Yeah. But only if he's above health.
Yeah, only if he's above 50% health. But it's easy to keep him above 50% health, so...
Yeah, and if you play him with like shielders too, you give him that extra buff or the extra cushion too. So it's always a good thing to.
Well, and that's where he fits with Brainiac so well, because Brainiac gives him that extra shield. Mm-hmm. So that even if he takes a double shot from Power Girl, he's still above 50% health 9 times out of 10.
One thing to note about Assault Warsuit Lex Luthor that may not be apparent to some at first glance is that his gear set was changed too. So he used to be a mixed tank, and now he's a full-on physical tank, which is why he has more HP and he can take hits better. And also the fact that he's a tank gear set, it means that his crit rate is low, but his crit damage is really high. And the fact that you have 100% guaranteed crit on his basic, on his legendary, makes it that much more potent. So that's really the reasoning behind that gear change.
And you'll notice if you face him, he's not scary at all. That's because the AI is dumb, doesn't use his basic, really casts everything else before his basic, and a lot of times he's below 50% health at that point. Yeah. So he's not a scary character to face, and he's not going to get you defensive wins. But honestly, who cares about defensive wins? So
yeah, which is another problem we'll talk about.
I don't know. I'm in Siege. I mean, I'm playing for World's Finals right now, and I went to bed at like 3 a.m., woke up, and I just bled out 100 trophies because of defense. I'm like checking my defense log. You were attacked a minute ago, attacked a minute ago, attacked a minute ago. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that can be annoying.
Yeah. But yeah, I think both reworks are great. I'm in the process of gearing Lex right now because of your advertisements. But I gotta say, running that Brainiac DOJ, here's a WGD or Wonder Girl, it's still pretty RNG to run that anyway, just because Harley can have that one evasion, and you can still miss that one evasion running your purge. It is so annoying.
I did have that happen to me this morning, actually. So.
Yeah, you missed that purge, and you're like, all right, I guess I gotta stun a crit immune Harley now instead of Batgirl. Messes your whole day up, but it's a good team. Harley's AI's RNGs.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna get into it.
Anyways, yeah, for those two guys, I'm actually not that interested in Castaway Green Arrow, mainly because like I've sort of like fallen off the whole physical train. I'm not really interested in physical characters, but Assault Warsuit Lex Luthor has me thinking that maybe I should sort of rethink my whole stance on only special characters. Because he's one of those characters that makes me feel like his kit is so well rounded. It has so much stuff going for it, and it has so much synergy. It's just built right in, and you don't have to work to enable it. It's just there. So I think that's what we need to see from more reworks. Like that's a rework caliber. Like it's not on the caliber of like, let's say Bane or I can't nothing
POT
or POT. Sure, nothing really stands on the same caliber as those characters right now. But his kit got like improved in a way that makes him so useful in so many different ways, and you don't have to try for it. And he's a character that's been readily available for a long time for a lot of older players, and even for newer players, he's going to be. I'm assuming he's going to be a little bit more accessible soon too. So, yeah, definitely a really good path that they're going down, and I hope we see more reworks for utility style characters like him. So. But what do you guys think about the new characters? Now, we don't know too much about it other than what we've seen on paper, but for Wally West Flash and for Arsenal, Kage, what do you think?
Evasion teams are going to have a boom, I think.
Because they need it.
Yeah. So I think they're going to be a little bit tougher. We'll see. I'm excited for them anyway, just because I like Teen Titans.
Yeah.
But they're going to be, I imagine Wally's going to be scary to face because he's giving all that awareness to his team. So you inevitably need to run Wonder Girl because he's giving a lot of buffs to his team. Unfortunately, I'd rather not have to use Wonder Girl every match, but that's the reality of it. Roy Harper, he seems like an interesting kit. I can't imagine him hitting very hard. So for any DPS head out there, I don't think he's going to be your guy. But he's a solid control character because, I mean, he's got int down and strength down, which is actually really good because you can stop a lot of characters using those buffs. Like, you're not seeing a lot of one-shots if he manages to proc that passive. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Hey, what do you think about the new guys?
The same line as Kage. I really think we're going to see. I'm very worried that Wally's going to fit into the Batgirl evasion team so well. Like I almost think he's going to make that team nearly. He potentially could break that team. Where I almost think you might be able to dump Harlequin Magester and run down a Troy instead, because you get the extra evasions and potentially really stack it up. Where to make Wonder Girl like near impossible to kill. I could be wrong. It's you never know. What looks like on paper plays in reality. Often different, but or you might even be able to say. I am excited for some fun evasion teams, because I really think you could make a scary Black Canary,
Scarecrow, or something like that.
Well, Black Canary, Batman Beyond, Roy Harper, and Wally West.
Sure.
I think you could make a scary team with that, because since Wally's the new fastest character in the game, he's always going to go first, and there's going to be a lot of interesting things you can do.
Can we talk about how sad it is for Flash in this game? Let's have a minute.
I can't believe he hasn't been reworked yet.
Flash,
I think Wally.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think Wally's kit. I mean, it's like the devs peeked at the forums and like, we have been asking for Flash and evasions for a long time, and then they looked at that kit and they're like, all right, we're gonna give this to Wally, the Flash.
Yeah. I mean, he is a Flash, so it counts, right? So, but I think if they ever to rework the Barry Allen Flash, that they have to make his kit faster. Like, he has to be the fastest man alive. If his subtitle is the fastest man alive. So, Well,
and I think they could easily give him can't miss, because you would assume that the Flash wouldn't miss. Yeah. So I would love to see a can't miss Flash that's running around wiping out all these evasion teams.
Yeah, like that's the thing about the current situation that we're in. Like, I think evasion has its place, and it shouldn't be like neutered per se. Like, I know that Steppenwolf was a good way of answering that team, but now you have a way to answer Steppenwolf. We need other ways to answer that team, or we need to take away ways that answers the answer to the team. So, I mean, I guess on that note, let's move on to the next topic, which is basically Kage's straw poll on how we should readjust Wonder Girl, and if it's time for her wings to be clipped yet or not. So, Kage, do you want to sort of go over what you posted on Reddit a while ago?
Yeah, so I posted a poll on Reddit and on the CC. I wanted to gauge what the audience thought of Wonder Girl right now. There's no doubt we've talked about her ad nauseum for the past several months, and I was initially on the camp of, hey, don't nerf characters. She needs to be viable. 6 months later, I think it was July when she was released, so we're entering January now, and she's still super viable. I think she's a little too viable. And I wanted to gauge what the community thought about her, and I wanted to list a bunch of options what they thought should be done. I let them vote for several different options, but they could only vote for once. So I wanted to see what the community wanted to see changed her, because I think the devs read what the community posts, and I wanted to catch their attention with this post, and I wanted to at least help the developers with their decision on what to do, because I think they are hesitant to nerf or rebalance characters because of community feedback, a lot of backlash. So I wanted to see what the backlash how hard the backlash would be, and surprisingly enough, there's like 9% of the audience wanted her to stay the way she is, and an overwhelming majority, they just want the conditional damage on the AoE to be removed. The conditional damage was like increase the damage of the whip if you have one or more buffs or two or more buffs. I can't remember what it is, but I think if you took that out and have her or just do the regular damage on the AoE, I think she'd be fine, and a lot of people wouldn't be complaining as hard, because hitting Doomsday for 30k passively, that kind of hurts.
Yeah,
and I think that's a little too viable of a skill. So I wanted to run that. I think I'll be running a second poll just to compare if people want the conditional damage removed, convert that passive into a leadership, or don't touch that at all. See what the audience thought.
I was gonna say we forgot to put that in the first time around to the leadership option, and we didn't think about it at all when we were brainstorming. But yeah, I'm of the camp that she needs to be readjusted. I mean, I've been saying this since more or less day one, and I was just counting down the days until it was gonna happen. I guess I lost the sort of bet that we had between Ogre Doom and I of the over under, and I put it at the holiday season, and here we are, and she's not reworked yet, or not readjusted yet, so. But hopefully, maybe January, February brings something for us in that lane. So, hey, what do you think about that whole topic?
Well, you know my opinions on Wonder Girl, and it's funny because there's such a big, well, not big, but there's a very vocal minority that is of the no nerf ever crowd, which I still think is kind of a foolish mindset, because if a character comes out that's so much more dominant than all the others, and granted, Wonder Girl isn't insanely overpowered like the Baby Lobo Deathstroke combo was, that allowed you to beat teams that were so out of your league that it wasn't even funny. But I still think it's bad for the game when you have a character that makes it so that if they take the stance of never nerf anything, and then they have to relieve counters that are so much more powerful that it makes all the other characters so much less viable, it's a bad domino effect, and it actually hurts. I would say, a lot of the people that are of the no nerf crowd are probably, she's one of their, they probably have a smaller roster and she's one of their strongest characters and they rely on her to beat matches, but in the long run it's going to hurt them because they're going to have to gear these new super character counters that come out that make her not viable at all. So it's going to be a balancing act where I don't think it's going to work out well. Whoever made that suggestion for her passive to become a leader, I think is the best solution personally, because that way you don't have to touch her kit at all. People that have a small roster won't be impacted nearly as much because they could still run her as a leader and run Etrigan, Harlequin, Magester, and Power Girl, or whoever they have, and still be able to muscle through matches pretty well. But it makes Wonder Girl not be able to hide behind the Batgirl teams and the evasion team that frustrate players more because the RNG is so annoying and you can't run any other comps. So I feel like that's the best solution without having to really nerf her. It's just a subtle change that I think will have a great impact on the game. If they decide not to go with the nerf crowd at all, I've been stewing on for a long time what a good counter character would be that wouldn't be so dominant that it would just destroy every other Mystic character. And I think this might help with all the buff purging characters that have been coming out lately anyway, is have a character, and I was thinking Batman CC rework would be perfect for it, and have an ability called Trap. And it's basically a buff that you put on your character, but when it's purged, that buff does damage or bleeds, or actually I don't like bleeds because bleeds don't happen fast enough. I think just pure damage right away. I thought about doing stuns, but then I'm like, well, she can just self-purge stuns off herself, so that doesn't matter anyway. But I think if it just did damage, I think it's one of those abilities that could be an active skill, so that even if it purges passively, it would still affect the person, because there's a few abilities that do that. And even if it doesn't fit the passive doing passive, I still think it should be one of those exceptions to the rule. So if then she's a liability.
Death abilities.
Right. So then she could potentially be a liability on your team, because I was thinking future characters or legendary upgrades is you spread that trap across your whole team.
Ooh.
Or you do damage. It does, like you have a legendary upgrade that when buff is purged, instead of just doing damage to Wonder Girl, it does damage to your whole team. So now she's a liability. You can make it if you're facing that.
Where basically if the buff disappears from the character, meaning if the character dies too, it'll still trigger. So
yeah, I mean there's a lot of things you could do with that, and I think you could release future characters with abilities that kind of play on that.
Well, we kind of do already have that ability. We have Penguin and Joker CPOC who can do that. Right. It just doesn't do a lot of damage.
Yep.
Right. Well, it's only when they die, though. Would be if the buff's purged.
Right.
Right.
So if they're still alive. So you're running Dot of Troy, and your team, all your awareness just gets stripped, but that buff just got purged. Now it does damage to her. And you could have like a stack of them, so that if you have 3 of them, and 3 of them could be enough to kill her automatically. So you have to be careful.
It would be really funny if you had that character on your team. On your team with Dot of Troy, and she purges that move to turn it into an awareness and she hits herself.
Well, yeah, and there could be some interesting little interactions with that. So you may not want to run down a turret with her. Or then if you do, I was thinking of character concept. I want to see Talon in the game for our Court of Owls push. And I thought that a cool ability would be if buff is purged. Not only will it do the damage, the trap does the damage to Wonder Girl, but it also spread bleeds across the whole enemy team.
It's flavorful too. Yeah, it fits with with the type of character he is, like an assassin, right? So that's cool.
Yeah, so I just thought it'd be a really cool idea that would make it so that other characters, all the other mystics, because otherwise people are like, oh, you need somebody who has true sight and automatic crit on turn 1. It's like, yeah, well, now every mystic is instantly dead.
All right, we're getting way off topic here. Let's wrap things up there with that.
But anyway, I'm going to post a big Reddit post about this because I want to push this idea hard. So.
Sure. So check out or keep an eye out on Reddit for hate post when that goes up, guys. So I guess let's wrap up the topics with the one thing that are on a lot of people's minds, especially those who have recently seen Aquaman. So what do you guys think about Aquaman? Let's go with Kage first, and then Hate, and then me.
I loved it. It's really over the top. The characters are really cartoony. I mean, Orm was just like, he's just got this bravado to him. He's posing. He's got his arms wide. He's got that arch villainess to him, or villain thing going on. He's like, rah rah, look at me. And it's really anime. If you grew up watching anime, and this is how characters behave, and I liked it. It was fun. I think it's a flawed script. I think several things were rushed, but that's DC for you. What do you expect? That's not an excuse, but I think it's a solid B movie. I gotta say, though, with Mera being so badass that she is in the movie, I wish we had that version in her game. But now every time I kill Mera in the game, I'm like, I'm sad now.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think about Aquaman?
Kind of along the same lines as Kage, I did not like the movie really at all, and I was in the theater waiting for it to end because it kind of felt like it just kept going. I don't like long movies, for starters. Any movie that's really long, I struggle with. Like, once it gets past that 1.5 hour point, I'm like, we gotta wrap this up. The parts I didn't. I mean, overall, it wasn't a bad movie. It's just there were lots of parts where it seemed like every 10 minutes they were playing this dramatic music, like they just saved the world, and then somebody was doing some kind of like pose or something ridiculous, and I'm like, guys, I was like, you just like walked across the street. We don't need to celebrate that. And it was along those lines. Some of the script was a little hokey. I mean, it wasn't too bad, but. And then I'm kind of tired, and a lot of movies do this, but I'm really over it. These giant, obscene fight scenes, like nations battling nations, which I'm okay with them doing that. But then you have characters that are like just kind of running through the middle of all of it without, worry. And just like it felt a little cartoony. It was a little over the top. It was not for me. I didn't feel like it was anywhere near Wonder Woman the movie's quality, which was the one DC movie that really just knocked it out of the park. Justice League was pretty good too, in my opinion. It wasn't fantastic like Wonder Woman, but it was good. This one I felt like took a big step the wrong direction. But I will agree that Mera, oh gosh, she needs to be in this game.
Yeah. Now, I was reading something that an alliance mate of mine, Mr. Scotty Mac, was saying about the movie, and I agreed with him completely. Like, I think the runaway character in this movie had to be Nicole Kidman's Atlanta. Atlanta was great. She was well casted, well played, and it was well put. But they sort of this is not really her fault. This is sort of the script's fault, I guess. They played too much into the romance between her and Arthur's father, and that took up way too much of the screen time, I think. But her part in that was good, though, I think. But when it comes to Mera, I think Mera, they really showed the difference between her and Aquaman and Orm, how she's sort of like this sort of mystical spellcaster type of being, where the others are more of these brawlers. They're up close and personal fighters, right? So it gives you this feeling of, I don't know, like a World of Warcraft type of thing, where she's like the mage in the background and she's controlling everything. So. All right. So, what else I was going to say about the movie? Oh, the one thing that reminded me a bit of the Justice League movie that I didn't like in that part either was when Aquaman finally gets... you see this in the trailer, so this is not really much of a spoiler anyways. When he finally gets his trident and his suit, you don't see that happening. You just see him get the trident, and then suddenly he appears with the suit. Right? Like, they could have built that up more. They could have built, like, the suit, like, comes piecing onto him or something, or he finds the suit and puts it on, right? It's the same thing with Superman.
Well, they showed it. They showed it. Once he took the trident, the clothes just kind of magically came onto him.
Oh, okay. So I actually didn't really...
Yeah, they did show that.
Okay, I didn't notice that.
I didn't need them to build that up anymore.
Okay. It reminded me a lot of, like, the Superman scene where he just shows up after in the Justice League with his suit. And he's like, you didn't have to go get your suit and figure it out that, you know, you just came back from the dead. You know, it was one of those things. But anyways.
I was surprised, though. I made my in-laws go to see that just because we were looking for something to do and I really wanted to see the movie. They loved it. They absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
So it's a very mixed crowd. It's either you really didn't like it or you loved it. Didn't feel like there was a lot of in between.
I think that they did justice to it in terms of the way that they're trying to target certain audiences, right? And I think that they did it, like, they balanced it just right. Some movies, they cater towards the, like, non-comic book fans, and then the others kind of care too much to the comic book fans that the people who are not in the know won't know what's going on, right? So they balanced it quite well, I think. And you could see that where they put all their money, and it was in the special effects and all the scenes and all that stuff that they were creating, right? Like, James Wan is a visionary in terms of what he's putting out there, right? All the stuff that was in his head came out onto the screen. The problem is he didn't write the script. That was the biggest problem. So, all right. So overall, I guess we'll wrap things up there with the topics. We'll get into one question that we have from our patron, Ventus1, and he breaks this into a couple of questions, and I'll just read it all at once, and I'll let you guys answer it as you will. He says, "Hey guys, first of all, how on earth are you going to answer love? Is there really an answer to love?" Secondly, thanks for keeping up the good work. My question actually is, how was your Christmas vacation? And was the month of December a good month regarding DCL, DC, etc.? And lastly, what are your New Year's resolutions? So this is quite a, sort of a mixed bag. So, hey, you want to answer these questions?
Well, December I felt like it was a pretty good month in DCL overall. I enjoyed the Siege. Just for me personally, I had a good time. The 12 Days of Christmas, which we didn't mention, I feel like the last couple days they really did a good job. It was pretty good stuff. First couple days left us suspect, but I think that we kind of need to expect that next year. The biggest thing with DCL is not releasing any new content or announcing they're releasing any new content, which we feel like something significant is probably very soon, but their idea soon and our idea soon is a little different. So I think, first quarter of next year, I have a feeling we'll likely see something, I would hope. Mm-hmm. So that, I think is a lot of people worried and potentially leaving. We've seen a lot of big names kind of dipping off here lately, but hopefully they say something in January, February at the latest. And then me personally, for the end of this year ended pretty good. We have a lot of family at our house, so I'm ready for the holidays to be over. But it's cutting into my DCL time. But other than that, going good.
All right. Any New Year's resolutions?
It's cliche to say exercise, but I definitely need to do a little more of that. I started running again the last several months and kind of fell off the last couple weeks. Yeah. That's probably not going to happen either. I've kind of given up on that. And then I have some major projects on my property that I'm told myself I was going to start doing, and I actually completed one last week. So
that's good. Cool. Kage, how about you? How's your holidays going with DCL and all that?
December is really cool. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Aquaman more than I should have, I guess, or more than I was expecting to. The characters are fun. The game's been fun for me. I'm not feeling burned out yet, but I do agree that I hope they come out with something soon. I suspect that whatever they told Ogre, they got held up pretty badly. I think Siege might have had to do with it, but that's just, I don't know. I'm just throwing out speculation here. It could be a million things. It could be an executive telling them, hey, don't do that. That's going to cost us money. Who knows? But I'm hoping whatever they have cooking comes out soon, just for the sake of the player base. And as far as New Year's resolution goes, I think I'm going to, I've been spending, $100 a month on the game. I think I'm going to scale back on that and just buy the paywall character if I really need it. I'm at a point in my roster now that I don't need to have every character. So I think I'm going to try and figure out how to manage my resources better. But overall, that's probably what my resolutions are, is just spend a little less here and spend a little more here.
Cool. For me, the month of December has been fun. I haven't really felt the burn. Like, I know people have been burning out and people quitting left and right. Pretty much about 2 or 3 months ago, when all this started really happening on Reddit and other forums and so on. But me personally, I'm still in it. I still like the grind every day, even though it's sort of a lot of the same old. That's sort of what I like. So I'm still in it. In terms of Aquaman month, I really liked all the new characters. I liked the new fixes to the changes to Mera. Mera was a character I was already considering taking to Gear 11, so I did this month. And the movie was great. I really liked it. I enjoyed it. It was over the top. It was a bit long. I agree with Hate Me on that. But, it's sort of the things that I like. And I hope to see, good things from Shazam next month or next year too. In terms of my Christmas vacation, we don't really celebrate Christmas in Japan. It's more of sort of like a Hallmark type of holiday here. It's like basically a second Valentine's Day where couples spend Christmas Eve together, but that's about it. And I just spent time with my wife. Had Christmas dinner with her, and that's about it. And New Year's is more of a Japanese tradition here, so New Year's is going to be a lot of drinking and partying. So, in terms of New Year's resolutions, I think, I don't really spend too much on the game as it is. I don't really expect to change that in the future. I hope to be more frugal with the resources that I already have, and to sort of stretch it even more if I can, and sort of bring that to you guys in terms of content to show you guys how to do the same for those of you who are sort of in the same boat. But in terms of WRL broadcast, we hope that we'll be putting out more quality content for you guys on a more regular basis and a more consistent basis, a reasonable quality level, and each time that they're put out. So, that's me speaking for the team, but do you guys have any other things to say for WROL broadcasts?
Stay hydrated.
One thing I forgot to mention was we do want to give a good congratulations to Sheriff Lobo for taking #1 spot in Siege, and also give Lucas, or LU9AS, some props. He definitely had everybody sweating for a while. We thought he was going to take it, but Sheriff was able to pass him. So
I thought there was a point where it was mathematically almost impossible to catch Lucas from the way things were going. But maybe
well, I thought the same thing too. But it's easy to make a mistake and then overcorrect. And I think what happened, and just is just speculation, but it looked like there was a couple-day period where, because I thought I was going to be able to take #1 for a short period, even after making a mistake early on. And then Sheriff Lobo had just kind of a flawless 2-week period where he was able to use heavy bonus characters. But one thing I learned early was that it made more sense to try to clear your board instead of refreshing more and use less bonus characters. And I think Lucas kind of started that at the beginning. And I think he dropped a match or two, or maybe he couldn't lock in. I don't know. This is speculation. But and then I noticed I think my personal opinion is I think he lost a couple because I was monitoring what teams he was using to try to figure out how to catch up to him. And he seemed like he started using a lot safer teams, or maybe he got crappier boards, one or the other. And he was using less and less bonus tunes, and then that was where Sheriff Lobo caught him and then built a lead over him.
Cool. Well, congrats to Sheriff Lobo again. And yeah, all right. So, I mean, I guess we'll wrap up the show there. At the end of the show, I'd like to give a thanks to all our patrons that support the show and help keeping us going. For any of you guys who aren't already in the know, you guys can check out our new Patreon page at patreon.com/WROL broadcasts. We have a list of new tiers there from $1 all the way up to 200 or 500. I can't remember. And you get a bunch of different rewards at each tier. And currently our first goal is set at $50. So we're just under the $50 mark. We already have a website in the works and sort of building on it with the DCL Legends Mobiles team that the fan site that they created. We're working with them on that already. But in addition to that, if we get to the $50 goal, we'll also unlock ringtones, which will have custom ringtones made for certain tier levels. So they'll be rewarded out to our patrons at those tier levels. So if you guys can help us push to that $50 goal, we'll get that out to you guys sooner rather than later. And then also a special thanks to JLR's own Dead Fiesta for helping us with all the awesome graphic work that he did for the podcast and the various pages that we have up. And you guys should really definitely go check him out via the link that we have on our Patreon page. You can check out his portfolio. If you're interested in his work, you guys can see it all there. But yeah, really, if you guys like that cover art, that was him that made that. So yeah, can't really say anything else. It was awesome what he did. Yeah.
Yeah, props to him.
Yeah. Any last words?
Yeah, thank you. It's amazing.
Yeah. All right. So I guess with that, we'll wrap things up there then. Have a good
all right.
day, guys.
See you later.
All right. Take care, all.
See ya. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of WROL Broadcasts, a subsidiary of the Oddsman and We Are Legends. To view additional content and support the show, please go to patreon.com/WROL Broadcasts.